What's going on, Pro Guides family? My name is Dan, and today we're going to be talking about arguably the most important part of Valorant, the guns. Most specifically, we're going to be taking a look at probably the most used category of weapons, the good old rifles. But before we dive into that, you know what time it is. It's time for the question of the day. Today's question is, what do you think is the most underrated rifle in the game? Personally, I think people underrate the Guardian a lot because of its semi-auto fire, but the damage output is pretty nice and the recoil is quite low. If used correctly, it can be quite the showstopper and shut down poorly executed pushes, so give it a try next time you find yourself playing against a very aggressive team. Leave your thoughts in the comments down below, and with that, let's start the video. Rifles are probably the most used weapons in the game, offering decent rate of fire, damage output, and scope magnification with slight differences between the four rifles. These rifles are the Bulldog, clocking in at 2100 credits, the Guardian at 2500 credits, and the Vandal and Phantom both costing 2900 credits. Starting off our general look at these weapons is the cheapest of the bunch, the Bulldog. Known as a budget option in the community, the Bulldog has been relegated to the awkward buy state, when you either have just not enough money to buy a Vandal or Phantom and shields, or just a little more money than your teammates so you can afford to spend a little bit extra to pick up a better weapon than your teammates can. With a slower fire rate unscoped than the Vandal or Phantom, punching in at 9.15 rounds per second, it is a reasonable assumption that most people will probably not give the Bulldog a fair try. But it does have some advantages. It needs 2 headshots to kill against shields, but with its alternate fire, it might not be that hard to score a kill against even heavy shielded opponents. When looking down its 1.25x sight, the Bulldog turns from automatic into a 3-round burst that can be lethal if at least one bullet connects with their head and one with their chest. We're going to talk a little more about where it's best to use each weapon a bit later into the video, so be sure to stay tuned if the Bulldog intrigues you. If you've ever peeked into a long angle like A-Long on Haven and heard the distinctive semi-auto fire of the Guardian, then you know just how terrifying this weapon can be in the right hands. It may have the lowest rate of fire and magazine capacity of any of the rifles, coming in at 4.75 rounds per second and 12 shots per magazine, but its deadly accuracy and damage output makes it very dangerous at longer ranges. The Guardian is still a pricey weapon at 2500 credits, but that is a lot cheaper than what it used to be even 2 days ago. With patch 1.03 releasing yesterday, the Guardian just got a bit of a rework, so be sure to check out our video on the 1.03 patch notes to hear more about it. If you find yourself rocking the Guardian in a match, remember that it also has a better zoom on its sight than the other rifles, being 1.5x instead of the standard 1.25x. Also, keep in mind that this was designed as a marksman's weapon, like the Operator, so spamming shots off as fast as you can isn't always the most effective method. One shot to the head is lethal at any range and with any shield type, so take your time and line up the shot for maximum damage. If you need multiple enemies to die and die fast, the Phantom just might become your new best friend. With the best-in-class fire rate, magazine capacity, and lowest recoil, as long as you can point and click, the Phantom will take care of the rest. Priced at 2,900 credits though doesn't mean you'll be picking up this slick piece anytime outside of a buy round. While many will compare and contrast the Vandal and Phantom, really the only thing the two rifles share is the price. The Phantom is great for fighting groups of enemies at once and spraying them all down, but can suffer when dealing with headshots. To balance out the weapon, it has damage fall off across 15, 30, and 50 meters. In short, if you're beyond 15 meters of an enemy, the Phantom won't one-shot to the head, instead requiring a follow-up shot to finish the job. One might consider the Vandal the poster weapon of the rifles. Not always necessarily the most popular, but always in the discussion and will always have a dedicated group of players attracted to its one-bullet removal service. By that, I mean no matter the range or type of shield your opponent might be wearing, if you hit someone in the head with the Vandal, then you can count them out of the round. Unless there's a thin barrier that decides to eat half the damage from the bullet, of course, making the fact that you hit them in the head about as meaningful as buying a Frenzy round 1. Yeah, I said it. With the Vandal and actually all the rifles only having medium wall penetration, you can expect to hit a lot of people in the head just as they duck back into cover only to realize they still have the majority of their health. It is an unfortunate side effect of the Vandal, but is a necessary evil for a weapon designed around headhunting. So, we talked a little bit about the rifles and about some of the advantages and disadvantages they bring, but now let's dive into what you guys really want to see, how to use these weapons, and of course, some sick plays. Once again, starting us off is the Bulldog with its rather unique playstyle. With the Bulldog, you get the most from the weapon by funneling people into hallways and corridors to make use of your 3-round burst and its lack of horizontal recoil. This can lead to a lot of baiting enemies into lines of sight that are favorable for your weapons, like hookah on bind or A main on split. You do want to avoid long lines of sight, as I'm sure you can guess there is another rifle that can handle these longer lines of sight better. Use the 3-round burst on the Bulldog when possible, but when encountered with multiple enemies or tight angles, leaving the weapon unscoped may help you land some lucky shots or quickly transfer between targets. While it's a fine weapon to start around with, try to be on the lookout for an upgraded weapon on the ground to pick up, or take one from one of the enemies you lured into your deadly trap. If you do have an itch to go and take some fights at long distances, it's dangerous to go alone. Be sure to take a Guardian with you to really make that Phoenix that has been 1v5ing your whole team regret picking up a Vandal. If you like to keep places on lock while still having more flexibility in fights than an operator, the Guardian is a must-buy. With the enhanced zoom and top-of-the-line damage output that we discussed earlier, the Guardian can shine in longer range engagements. Think about watching things like mid on Ascent, mid on Bind, or A-long on Haven. That isn't to say that you should be peeking into an op with this gun. There is a reason that the op is priced at 4,500 credits, and it's because it is the king of distance engagements. However, if you see a very stationary opper or an inexperienced one, you might be able to land a headshot or a few body shots by peeking quickly and from different angles. If you know you aren't going to be fighting too many ops though, or are watching over some longer distance angles, the Guardian might be a nice 400 credits to save over a Vandal or Phantom. Speaking of the Phantom, it's actually a pretty competent weapon that thrives in certain situations. The Phantom actually likes to be in a lot of the same situations that the Bulldog does because of the rate of fire and lack of one-shot headshot potential at distance. Hookah on Bind and playing on sights are probably the place that the Phantom enjoys the most, with distance engagements being doable, just maybe requiring a few more bullets than you're used to. Try to take advantage of the Phantom's low recoil and high rates of fire as often as you can, meaning that this is probably the weapon that you should be using if you like spraying instead of tapping or bursting. If you're looking to get help finding the perfect weapon for you, or just want to practice your mechanics, be sure to check out ProGuides.com. We have some of the best coaches in Valorant just waiting to help you improve. Whether it's mechanics, game sense, or just good old VOD review, we can help you reach the rank you deserve. So sign up today with the link that's down in the description below. Last but certainly not least, the Vandal. This Vandal is probably the most well-rounded weapon in Valorant on paper. It has one-shot headshot potential with medium well penetration and a fair asking price of 2,900 credits. However, it is lacking in ammo compared to the Phantom, only holding 25 rounds per clip as opposed to 30. It also holds a modest fire rate of 9.25 rounds per second. The main attraction of the Vandal, of course, is the one-shot headshot potential. That leaves the Vandal as a very versatile weapon, as it can handle both short, medium, and long-range engagements pretty well. It all depends on the user as to how they decide to utilize the weapon. Personally, I think the Vandal is best used on sights with long sight lines, like A on split or B on bind. But I also think that it's pretty useful for situations like A long on Haven or mid on Haven, since if you're accurate enough, you can punish OP and Guardian users with its higher rate of fire. On the other hand, of course, you have to be very accurate with the gun in order to land headshots at such a distance. If you want to go for these rifles, you have to know how to play around your economy in order to buy these guns. This is by no means a full or in-depth economy guide, but we do have a full economy guide out on our channel right now that you can find a link to in the description down below or right now in the upper right. So if you're going for a rifle, you're most likely going for a Vandal, Phantom, or Guardian, so we'll touch on those in a bit. But for right now, let's talk a little bit more about the Bulldog's role. Costing only 2,100 credits, the Bulldog is the cheapest rifle, and its stats reflect that as we saw. That being said, buy the Bulldog as a low-cost rifle drop for your team or for when your team is buying, but maybe you don't have as much money. I wouldn't recommend buying a Bulldog and no shields, as if you can't afford any shields with it, you're probably too low on money to even be buying in the first place, and you probably want to save your money or just buy a pistol so you can full buy next round. For the other rifles, they're all pretty expensive weapons that you want to make sure that you can buy around. While the Bulldog may be a cheap alternative for a rifle, the Guardian, Phantom, and Vandal all cost 2,700 or 2,900, so buying armor and abilities with them is the best move. Generally, for a full buy round, you will need anywhere from 4,300 credits to 4,700 credits for a good weapon, heavy shields, and all your abilities. If you don't have that much, you're probably better off buying a Bulldog with shields and abilities, or taking a second look at you and your team's money and seeing if this really is a good round to buy on. If only you or one teammate can't buy, it's probably worth it to have everyone buy what they can and try to find an upgraded weapon for your teammate. However, if 2 or more of your teammates can't buy, you probably want to consider saving your money instead for the next round, and just having those that can buy this round just buy cheap weapons and armor instead. Well, everyone, that's all that we have for you today. If you liked the video, be sure to hit like and maybe even consider subscribing while you're down there. We put out new videos like this one every day, and I'm sure you don't want to miss any of them. While you're down there, also don't forget to check out the links to our website and other related videos. All right, until next time, stay safe out there and peace out.